So over time, I got several lucky breaks. One of my first was to join an effort that was underway at a company called Eternity Comics to work on a Captain Harlock comic book series. This series began about a year before I got involved, and the writer was a guy named Robert Gibson, and the artist was a guy named Ben Dunn. They were phasing out, or at least Ben was, and with the next one, this one right here, I took over as the artist. And so suddenly I had a job drawing Captain Harlock comics.
And I've seen many of these and had no idea that your hand had touched likely many of the images I saw. Quick note, gotta be tough to be named Ben Dunn in a creative industry.
Yeah, that's not his original name.
Okay.
I believe he is Korean, and his family name was Dung, D-U-N-G.
Yeah, that's rougher in the States.
So if you had to choose one or the other. Yeah, so I drew Captain Harlock comics for quite a while. It culminated in a 4-issue series called The Machine People. Mm-hmm. Here's the final issue of that. So it was a couple of years. And by the end of it, my style had evolved quite a bit. So if you were to compare my first issue with my last one, you see a tremendous leap in quality. And then one of the next things that came along was Star Blazers. While I was working at Eternity Comics in their studio in Los Angeles, where I live, they got a letter from a company called Voyager Entertainment, based in New Jersey. And in their letter, they said, we are the worldwide rights holders to an animated series called Star Blazers. And we're contacting you to see if you have any interest in licensing this property as a comic book. I worked really hard to contain myself. I only rose about 6 feet off the floor when I read that, instead of hitting the ceiling. And I went right to the editor there and I said, you've got to get this. Star Blazers is magic. Star Blazers created a whole generation of anime fans. And they had benefited from that genesis because their most popular comic book at the time was Robotech.
Okay.
And you can draw a straight line between Star Blazers fandom and Robotech fandom. Came out from Eternity, were created at Eternity, and they were based on the Harmony Gold license.
Interesting.
They had no Japanese origin at all.
Oh, okay. Okay. Right. Well, fun note for Macross Robotech fans out there.
Yeah, in fact, I don't think there was... Well, there might have been a Macross manga because back in the early 80s, there were a lot of weekly or monthly manga titles for kids that would adapt whatever was on TV at the time. I cannot remember right now if Macross was ever part of that. But in terms of a large comic book project, Robotech Comics existed in America before Macross manga existed in Japan.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
And the same is true of Southern Cross and Mosfita. All 3 of those shows were generated as anime first and other media second. The Robotech comics that came out from Eternity at the time were licensed from Harmony Gold and produced by Eternity. Okay. I did a few of them myself. I got involved for about a year and a half.
Awesome.
On a Robotech comic that originated from Mosfita, and that was a lot of fun. But in the wake of receiving that letter from Voyager Entertainment, a lot of things happened. I took it to the editors at Malibu, and I pitched it with all my might, and they said, we're not really interested in this, because they were starting up a superhero line at the time, and they wanted to put all their energy into that. And it crashed and burned within 4 years, but I'm not bitter. And what that meant was that I could take the information from that letter and turn it around and use it in a different way. And so I approached Voyager directly. And this was after I moved on from Malibu. And I said, Malibu is not interested in a relationship with you, but I am. And I teamed up with a couple of friends who could also produce comics and take them all the way to the print phase. And I told them at Voyager, if you are interested in producing your own comic, we can package it for you. And that is what led to a series of Star Blazers comic books created by Americans for English readers.
Okay, wow. So was that the same circumstance with Harlock?
Harlock was licensed from a company called Coral Pictures.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that could happen is because there was a very short-lived video release.
Yes, abysmal.
A couple of episodes came out on VHS, and the name Coral Pictures was on the copyright. And so Malibu went to Coral and asked them if they had rights to license out to make a comic book. And Coral said, yes, we do. And then Malibu got those rights. And this was all under Ben Dunn's recommendation. Mm-hmm. So whereas I was unsuccessful getting them interested in Star Blazers, he was very successful getting them interested in Captain Harlock. Mm-hmm. And it sold really well for them. And it gave me a lot of opportunity to improve my craft as I drew Captain Harlock for a living.
Wow. Okay. So I never realized, because I saw those comic book covers and I thought, okay, those are Americanized covers that they wrapped around translated manga. But that is not the case, what you're saying. Okay. My ignorance is on display here for everybody. But if anybody else was confused, you see something with those covers on Amazon or eBay, those are original works. That's fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, and you can always tell by looking at the credits. Mm-hmm. If you don't see Leiji Matsumoto as the writer or artist, it was somebody else. Okay. That makes it pretty simple.
Yeah.
But here's a sort of funny punchline to that whole story. Coral Pictures turned out to be illegitimate. Mm. They were kind of a licensing pirate organization.
Yeesh.
And this was discovered late in the game when Toei Pictures, who was the licensor, or maybe it was, I can't remember if it was Toei or if it was Matsumoto's book publisher. One of them contacted Malibu and said, the rights to create what you're creating do not exist, and we want you to stop.
Wow.
And Malibu countered by saying, we licensed this from a company called Coral Pictures. Yeah, so it was discovered that Coral Pictures did not actually have the rights that they said they did. Mm-hmm. And so we had no choice but to admit defeat and close down the comic. But they did allow us to finish the story arc we were on. So at least we got to bring it to a conclusion.
That sounds extremely considerate. Yeah. I mean, that does not sound like a corporate decision. It sounds like somebody recognized. I almost imagine Matsumoto going, they're innocent. Let them wrap up what they were doing and we'll move on. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, jumping forward again, we got to do several issues of the Star Blazers comic book. I have them all right here in my hand. These are very difficult to find now.
Okay. Can you go through those covers for us?
Yeah, it's been over 20 years since these were published. So
thank you.
We started with a number 0. This was a single issue adaptation of the first series.
Very, very Tokinawa of you to go 0. Very Leijiverse to go 0.
Right. Issue 1 did the same for the Comet Empire series. Issues 2 through 5, we did a 4-issue version of The New Voyage, which was the movie that followed Series 2. Here's the concluding issue of that. And then we did an original story over 3 issues, actually 4. There was issue 6, there's issue 7, issue 8, and issue 9. And that was a bridge between the 2 movies, The New Voyage and Be Forever Yamato. So issue 9 was a prelude, which you can see there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did issue 10, which was the kickoff of our Be Forever Yamato adaptation. And that turned out to be the last issue because the entire comic book world imploded back in, let's see, I believe this was 1994. No, 1997. There was a giant contraction, one of several, that took place over the 90s. Oh, wait a minute. I lied. There was an issue 11. This was our last one.
Okay.
So we got 2 issues into Be Forever. And then we had to shut it all down. The next issue after that was halfway into production at the time. So it was a difficult loss. You can see every single page of every single issue on Cosmo DNA, by the way.
Oh, okay.
And you can see where we were when we had to stop, which was halfway through issue 11.
So head on over to rStarBlazers.com and check that out if you're curious.
Yep. That'll keep you busy for a while. If you're stuck for something to do in quarantine, that website is your best friend.
Absolutely. Everybody's binging right now, so
yeah. We parted with fond memories from Voyager Entertainment.